Hi, this is Mary Begley. It's November 4th, 2024. I've been asked to participate in Art by Artists. I will tell you a little about myself and try to explain my art to you. I'm an abstract artist living in Buffalo, New York, US of A. I grew up in central New York. At that time, it was a series of cul-de-sacs in the middle of farmland. We were able to drive down the road and get fresh eggs. However, it had a suburban feel, and it came with some suburban trappings. I grew up in a large household, one of 6 kids. We were encouraged to figure it out. If I liked art, my mother would encourage that and buy me art supplies. I took classes. I was fortunate enough to go to a large high school where they had an extensive art program. I was able to experiment with various media. I was drawn to painting. In some of my work, I refer to the nostalgia of childhood, good, bad. Although I appreciated where I grew up, I wanted to live in a larger city. I moved to Buffalo, where I got my BFA and MFA. Although I experiment with different media, I consider myself an abstract painter. Some of my influences include the painters of the 50s, Rauschenberg, de Kooning, Joan Mitchell. My all-time favorite is Roberto Matta and some surrealists, Man Ray and Duchamp. In my paintings, I bring together memories of place using abstracted imagery within atmospheric fields to create implied storytelling. I like to call these paintings abstract tableau. An entity surrounded by their environment is a universal concept, whether it's from what we call reality or in the realm of the subconscious. In my work, I explore biomorphic forms accompanied by images based on memories of place that create naturalistic landscapes to tell a story. A lot of people ask about my thought process and what goes on in my head while I'm making these paintings. When I start out to paint, the canvas is blank and I have no preconceived concept of what I want to follow. I build the painting from each brush stroke, much like a piece of literature that starts with one sentence. The first brush stroke dictates the second brush stroke, and so on. I also ruminate or meditate and think on the painting for a while before I decide where I want it to go. Sitting back and thinking, sometimes spending more time doing that than actually painting. The story evolves, using a language from my subconscious and drawn from my experiences. To me, painting is about the presence of the artist, and I am the interpreter of the events. These paintings are autobiographical in nature, but I use universal concepts such as being, knowing, substance, identity, time, and space. These works are often ambiguous, whimsical, yet thought-provoking. I'm creating abstract atmospheres in which the thematic overtone is about the dynamics of human existence. I work in layers, and I like to show the history of the painting by letting the layers peek out. I also use spatial ambiguity, like where the background becomes the foreground. This is an ongoing technique in my art. I also work in layers over a period of time, sometimes months, using different viscosities of paint, different translucencies. I will use glazes in conjunction with thick opaques. Sometimes shiny varnish is juxtaposed against a dull matte. My inspiration is informed by nature, but it's not just seeing nature, it's feeling it. It's the physicality, it's the psychology of existence within nature. I build upon layers, and each layer dictates the next action. I like to call my paintings abstract tableau. A name I made up, but I think it's very relevant. So when you think of a tableau, you think of a set scene. To set a scene. So in a way, the act of painting is the act of setting a scene. These are stories that come from within. The psychology of my life, biography, past history, nuances of memories, and nostalgia as well. The biggest challenge of being an artist, I think, is getting people to see your art. And if I were to give some advice to my younger self, I would say, take notes, make a journal, write those names down, the people you meet at the openings, with notes, because you're never going to remember them. I'm not afraid to use different media. I did a series of portraits called digital animations using the iPad, and first starting with a painting, making it come alive in the digital world. I also use pen and ink and watercolor. I do found objects, assemblage, with the satellite discs that I find in the trash in my neighborhood. I also enjoy making bas-relief in my small works. Whatever I'm doing, music is always involved. I always listen to music. In fact, for a long time, I worked in a record store, and then I managed a record label. Music is a huge part of my life and influences my paintings daily. In fact, in undergrad, my thesis was called The Mystic Gulf, which is a term created by Wagner about the space between the audience and the stage. It is a mystic gulf. My painting Plunk is also subtitled Mystic Gulf Revisited. It's always a fantastic thing when somebody gets your painting and you don't have to explain it. It's an overwhelming feeling to meet a kindred spirit. And I hope to meet and touch people on a subconscious level where they can feel and see what I am seeing, sharing our existence. Thank you for having me, Art by Artists. Find me on Instagram and YouTube, Mary Begley Art, and on Facebook, Paintings by Mary Begley, and on the web, www.marybegley.com.